Hello crocheters, welcome to Crazy Cool Crochet. In this project we are working the crochet t-shirt dress. This has a very classic, simple silhouette, and because we are using Baby Bee Sweet Delight, it has a beautiful soft drape, and it is a number 3 lightweight yarn, so the dress fits very, very comfortably. So in addition to the yarn, which is color violet that I'm using on this one, I'm also using a measuring tape, scissors, a yarn needle, and the hook is a G or 4.25 millimeter. Now for this design, I went with single crochets for the entire project. And this is a very deliberate decision because I want, as I do sometimes say in some of my designs, I want the silhouette to be the star of the show, not the stitch. And I wanted this because it's such a classic design. I wanted to keep the texture as flat as possible, so I didn't want it to be too textury. And the pattern itself is very straightforward, fairly simple. This will be a great project for a beginner. It's going to be 2 straight panels. The sleeves form themselves, and the V-neck will also be fairly simple and straightforward. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with a chain of 87. And we are working this pattern for a size small. I will leave additional instruction in the description area below for different sizes. You will also be able to find the written pattern at crazycoolcrochet.com within a day or 2 of the posting of this video. Now you do want to watch this video all the way through before you get started. So in addition to helping my channel, it will also be helpful to you because I so often leave tips and suggestions along the way. So you want to make sure you catch everything before you get started. Now for this entire project, you want to use a bit of a looser tension, not super loose, but you don't want to be working tightly. In order to achieve the nice drape, you want to have a slightly more open weave. Okay, so now for the foundation row only, we are working in the back loop, and that is so that we don't have to come back and put a border at the end. So we're going to start in the second chain from the hook. Do not count the chain on the hook. The first one usually tightens up a little bit, but that's the first one right there. Let's turn this over, find the back loop. First one is always the trickiest, as you can see. Okay. Alright, so a single crochet, and then a single crochet in the back loop of each chain. See, if you've got the chain facing you, it looks like a regular chain, but if you turn it over a little bit, you see all those little bumps in the back? That's where you're going into. And this forms a beautiful foundation row with a nice flat bottom. So keep going all the way across the row, and you will have 86 single crochets. At the end of the row, chain 1 and turn. And now we're going to single crochet into each space, starting with the first one. Remember, don't work too tightly. Work all the way across the row. You're going into every space in between each single crochet. At the end of the row, you will again have 86 single crochets, chain 1, turn, and repeat for a total of 113 rows. Now that fits me, and this of course will be before we get to the neck shaping and the shoulders. 113 rows plus the additional top portion fit me a little bit below the knee. So you will want to measure how long you want this. Allow for a little bit of stretch. Once you put the garment on, it will stretch a little bit. So it will actually be a little bit longer than the measurement on the table. So if you want something longer, then go ahead and keep adding additional rows until you get to the point where you want the V of the neck. Here is my completed panel. Now we're going to start working on the neck shaping. Okay, now on row 114, or the first row of your neck shaping, you choose where you want that neck shaping to start. Okay, so I did 42 single crochets, and then I'm going to turn. Do not chain. After number 42, just turn. Now you're going to skip that very first space. Start a single crochet into the next space, and then single crochet across, and you will have 41 single crochets, and then chain 1, turn, and repeat. So we will keep repeating that pattern. When you come back around to the other side, to on row 116, we are going to do 40 single crochets. This one here will be number 40. And then turn, and just like the previous time, skip that first space, go into the next one for your single crochet all the way across the row. So you are reducing by 1 on each row. Okay, now I worked my neckline and shoulder until I ended with 24 single crochets in the last row, and then tie off the yarn, cut off the yarn. Now we're going to work the opposite side. And this is the back side, in case you're wondering what is that. So I still have to tie all that off. Now what we're going to do is find the row 114. Well, this is 113. 114 is where we started the decreasing. So there's that last single crochet of row 114. Skip the next space. Insert the hook into the next one. So the second space from where you entered that last single crochet, skip one, enter the hook in the next space. Attach the yarn. Attach it with a chain to lock it in. And now insert the hook into the next space for your first single crochet, and then single crochet across the row. You will have 42 single crochets, same as the first shaping row, 42. And just as for the other side, we're going to enter that last single crochet, number 41, skip that last space right there, turn, and then continue in the pattern so that you will skip that first space, single crochet into the next for 40. So just keep working until you match the other side with the rows and the stitches. Okay, here is the front panel completed. It's really starting to take shape. Now let's work on the back panel. And it's a little bit late in the video for me to mention this now. However, I have had a couple of people mention that I never say my name, which tells me they haven't watched all my videos. But okay, my name is Sylvia. So there we go. Whoever wanted to know my name, Sylvia. So now you start this exactly the same as for the front. So you do your chain of 87, work single crochets. This time we're going to work up through row 127. And then we're going to do a little subtle neck shaping for the back. So let's go ahead and do that. On row 128, we single crochet across the first 27 spaces. Then we're going to start decreasing for the neck. So just as before, do not chain after that last single crochet, just turn. And now skip the first space, just like before, single crochet into the next space, and single crochet across for 26 single crochets. So just continue the way you did the front. So you'll chain one, turn, and then skip the very last stitch on that next row so that you end up on row 132, which matches up with the front, 132 rows. On row 132, you will have 23 single crochets. And then you can tie it off, and we will do the opposite side. Okay, now to shape the opposite side, I thought it would be easier to count from the edge over. We're going to attach the yarn in the 28th space from the edge. So just count your spaces. In the 28th space, we will attach the yarn with a chain, and then single crochet in each space across for 27 single crochets. And just as before, when you get to the end, chain one and turn, and then work for 26 single crochets, and just continue on the pattern as you did on the other side until you get to row 132 and 23 single crochets. So now both panels are done. Now we are going to attach at the shoulders and on the sides. We want the two panels touching each other with right sides touching. Wrong sides are out. So let us put these together at the shoulder. So now take your yarn needle, strand of yarn, insert it into the cornermost stitches under the two strands on each panel. Bring it through. I like to tie the end to secure it. And then just use a whip stitch. Okay, so go under the two strands on the one panel, the two strands on the second panel, and that's it. So just until you get to the end of that shoulder, and then weave in your tail, tie it off, and then do the opposite side. Okay, now we will work on the side seam. So determine how much of an armhole opening you want. I'm going to do 6 inches on mine, and then seam down the edge, but not all the way to the bottom. This design has a good size slit on the bottom. So I'm going to allow for 12 inches on mine. Make sure you try this on first. When I tried this on, it actually stretched a lot more than I was expecting. So I thought it was only going to stretch about 1 inch, and it stretched a bit more than that, maybe 2 to 3 inches. So only seam from the slit to the arm opening, the same way as you did for the shoulder with a whip stitch. And then we'll come back and do a little border on the neck. Now let's add a single crochet border to the neckline. I usually attach the yarn in a seam, and I do work this right side facing me. I attach it with a chain to lock it in, and then just enter a single crochet in each space, evenly spaced around. When you come back around to where you started, slip stitch to join the row, chain one, and then enter a slip stitch in each space around for however many rows you want to do. Okay, I wanted to show you the neckline. I did do 2 rows of single crochet, and on the body, that looks beautiful. That was just the absolutely most perfect finishing touch. 2 rows made all the difference. And because it was a little too wide for me, it was just fitting a little on the big side. So as I was doing the single crochets, mostly on the first row. I would skip a stitch every now and again. And actually I probably did every other stitch on the first row. And then on the second row, it was already more tightened up. But I went ahead and skipped one or two here and there. And it tightened it up a little bit more. And I love the effect. One last tip. When you put this on, especially, I mean, you can see it right now. But when you put this on, one or two of the corners, actually a couple of the corners, tend to curl up. So what I do to counteract that, or that one's doing it too, I actually iron it. Now you all might want to block. I don't block anything, but I do iron when it does this. And no, it does not melt the yarn. So let me tell you how I do this. I put it on an ironing board, and I have a towel underneath and then a pillowcase on top. And I wet the pillowcase a little bit, and I hold the iron, which I have on a cotton setting. I hold it up about an inch above the pillow cover. And I press down on the pillow cover, and it presses down on the yarn. Now, you'll be able to test that way, make sure it's not melting. I have done this dozens of times on all different kinds of yarn. Never have I had a problem with anything melting, but you want to double check. So, as long as everything's okay, then I go ahead and actually press down on the pillowcase, just a little bit. And this will straighten out beautifully. Okay, so that's just a tip, but you want to be really careful with that one. Do a test first. So I hope you like this design. As always, on the table it looks not great, but when you put it on, it makes all the difference, obviously. So go ahead and try this out. It is very, very drapey, very comfortable, very soft. Okay, make sure you come back for the next project. Subscribe if you haven't done that yet. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think of this design. Let me know what colors you're going to use. If you have any other tips for straightening out those little curls on the bottom, go ahead and leave a comment. Let us know how you take care of that. See you on the next one. Thank you.